So we continue learning about the great missionaries that we have the honor of supporting. And tonight and next week, we're going to do kind of what we did for the 3 previous missionaries that we studied. We're going to use the same Bible passage tonight and next week because thematically, I think it really connects with the great work that they're doing, the ones we'll meet tonight and the ones that we will meet next week. So we're going to be looking in Luke chapter 14 tonight and next week, the first half of Luke chapter 14. And I'll read a few verses tonight. The setting, the story, takes place at the house of a prominent Pharisee who has thrown a dinner party and, strangely enough, has invited Jesus to attend this little banquet. And Luke 14 does say that at this time, some of the Pharisees were watching Jesus closely. Because it is true, this is a little farther along in Luke's gospel, so more and more people were being drawn to Jesus as he preached and as he healed and as he reached outside the normal expected boundaries of who they thought should be allowed in the church. Jesus would often step out and reach out and heal and love and share God's love with those that the church leaders thought should not be included in the boundaries of the church. So because Jesus keeps doing that, then they are scrutinizing him and watching him ever more closely. Because what he's doing, he's breaking the rules that they had followed in the Old Testament. A lot of the miracle work that he does was on the Sabbath. That breaks Old Testament rules. A lot of the people he associates with, they would have been considered dirty or icky, breaking Old Testament rules just by touching them to heal or spending time or sharing space, being in the same room. So, because he was fraternizing with all those icky people, the Pharisees didn't like it. So maybe one of them invited Jesus over kind of into the lion's den, into his own house for this dinner party. So let me read Luke chapter 14, verses 1 through 6, and then I'll jump to verses 12 through 14. One Sabbath, when Jesus went to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, he was being carefully watched. There in front of him was a man suffering from dropsy. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in the law, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not?" But they remained silent. So taking hold of the man, he healed him and sent him away. Then he asked them, "If one of you has a son or an ox that falls into a well on the Sabbath day, will you not immediately pull him out?" And they had nothing to say. Verse 12. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." So Jesus is at this dinner party, shares some of his thoughts, asks some provocative questions that the other guests are either too stunned to answer or can't believe that he would ask these questions, can't believe what they're seeing. They don't even respond. And as usual, Jesus says some pretty radical things here. The instructions that he gives, he instructs people that if anyone wants to follow his example, follow his way, follow his teaching, then one result is that they should be inviting all people into the church, into the faith, into the family of God, especially the ones who were being left out already. And the missionaries that we will meet in a moment, and the ones that we'll meet next week, they are trying to do that kind of work as well. That's why I wanted to read this passage twice. So tonight we're going to meet Rick and Ellen Burnette, in Southwest Florida. Before they moved to Southwest Florida, for 15 years they were missionaries on the border between Thailand and Burma doing, that is some real mission field kind of work. Then they returned to the U.S., like North Fort Myers, Florida area, specifically to the community of Immokalee, and I think I'm saying that right. We'll have to check my pronunciation in the video. In 2017, they started a ministry program there called Cultivate Abundance, which feeds people in the area who don't have enough food. Now, many of the people in that area who don't have enough food are migrant laborers who work on the big produce fields out there. Immokalee as a town is only about 20,000 people, but when I was learning about it, it grows more than 2/3 of America's wintertime tomatoes and other crops, which is a remarkable statistic. I don't know if you bought any tomatoes at the grocery store in the last couple of weeks, or maybe in January. I know we did. We enjoyed some lasagna. Well, there's a 2/3 chance that those tomatoes were picked and grown in Immokalee, Florida. Sadly, Immokalee has a poverty rate of 37%, and most of the migrant produce workers there live in that extreme poverty and can't afford good food. Most of the community there is what is called a food desert, and that's a term that means an area that doesn't have access to a normal good grocery store, like we have plenty of options right here. If a community doesn't have a grocery store in it or nearby, they might be called a food desert. Maybe the only thing they have might be like a gas station convenience store where the food isn't good or healthy, or it's really overpriced. So that's what motivated the Burnettes to go work down there. It's the irony that so many of the residents work all day to help feed us, but they truly struggle to get food for themselves. And to help them do this mission work, the Burnettes have partnered with another local ministry in the area that we will meet in the videos, called, in Spanish, Missionaries, which means Face of God Mission. It's run by a man named Miguel. We'll see him too. And he knows what it's like to be one of those migrant workers in the field, so he can really connect with the people of the community, and he helps them with whatever need they have, whether it's getting food, filling out paperwork, counseling, prayer support, whatever. You'll hear the Burnettes call Miguel the pastor of Immokalee, both in just an informal way. That's just what he does. So let's watch these two videos, and it will give some text on the screen. And I don't know if the text can be read from the back. Would it be helpful if I read out loud the text that it appears, like if it shows a Bible verse or something? Yeah. Okay, well then I'll stand here while the video plays and I'll read out. Sometimes they'll say who the person is, so I will read that out. All right. And if it needs to be louder, just let me know. Whoops. Maybe I should turn the TV on first. There we go. All right. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It says, Cultivate Abundance is a partner of
We like to see
Missionaries.
ourselves as a bridge connecting the farm worker community with the rest of the world, literally, that basically include the faith community around, but not just them, and everyone who had any kind of interest and respond to that reality. Florida is not exactly the best place to be a farm worker or a migrant. Workers used to leave behind family and relatives at home, and at the end of the day, what they keep it for them is hardly enough to have one meal per day. That's hardly what happened, and sometimes even less than that. Sacrifice what they are doing for the rest of their families at home in order to survive for them over there, not necessarily for them here.
Miguel Estrada is an amazing man. He came from Guatemala with his family in order to do this work in Immokalee. He was called to do this work in Immokalee. He is basically the pastor of Immokalee in a lot of ways. People know him, they respect him, they come to him with their problems, they come to him to help with documents they've got in the mail that they don't understand what to do with. Every day of his life, he is living it for these people, this community, in just sacrificial, loving relationship with them.
Immokalee, Florida is a farm worker community where an estimated 14 million pounds of produce come from. One of the richest areas in the country has a food shortage.
In order to get a regular pay during the day, it's an average of a ton of tomatoes that you need to pick it up. That's what each worker basically had in their bags at the end of the day. That basically means $65 per day, with the kind of wages that these workers are getting. They hardly can have enough to pay for decent food, nutritious food. We really feel blessed to have the opportunity to work together with Rick and Ellen. They fit exactly our need. They understood what was needed around this community. They have been open enough to learn from the community, not from us, from the community, and become part of them.
Missionaries has been finding food through local food banks, at least 2 in this area, bringing food in each week and distributing out every Friday afternoon. We have food share time from 3:30 to 6:30 on Friday afternoons.
If you really want to learn about anyone else's culture, get the time and the chance to sit with the other people who eat. That's the best place. And because when people is eating, they literally open their hearts. That's my experience. So when you feed them the cultural appropriate food, you are feeding not just stomachs, but hearts and souls too. And that makes a huge difference. That's the beauty of what we have been learning around this place and this ministry. That the more you open space on the table, the best blessings.
We all deserve a place at the table. He said also to the man who had invited him, when you give a dinner or banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Luke 14:12-14. Is a volunteer with Missionaries in Immokalee, Florida.
Las metas de Misión Peñiel y
The
del
goals
jardín
of Missionaries
son a
mission
ayudar a
are to
todas
help
las
all the people
personas
who work
que
in
trabajan en
agriculture in
la
different
agricultura,
parts of the
en
world.
diferentes partes, que trabajan
We
en
work in the yard, in
construcción,
construction,
ayudarlos con un poco
to
de
help them with
despensa.
a little food.
Doña Ruth la conocí en el
I met Doña
2017.
Ruth in 2017 when they just opened the Peniel Mission here. Doña Ruth is the mission coordinator at Mission
Y a
Peniel.
Rick lo conozco
And I've known
cuando
Rick since
empezaron
they
a
started
trabajar
working to
para
build the
construir
garden.
el jardín.
I'm just grateful to be able to be in lead with gardeners, whether it's Immokalee gardeners or Naples gardeners or Atlanta gardeners.
Yo he sentido el amor de
I have
Dios
felt
en esta
God's love in
comunidad.
this community.
Bien bendecida
I've been blessed
por
by
Dios,
God,
por
by all
todas
the
las
people.
personas, porque
Because
por
with
cualquier
anything they
cosa
help,
ayudan
they
a
help.
uno. Aquí en
Here in
Immokalee, para
Immokalee,
poder
in order
alquilar,
to
a veces
rent,
tiene que vivir de 3 a 4
sometimes
familias
3 or
en una
4
casa.
families have to
A
live in a
veces una
trailer.
familia tiene
Sometimes a
solo
family has
cuarto
only one
para
room to
estar.
live in.
Yo he visto que Misión
I have seen the
Peniel
Mission Peniel and
y
the
han
garden
ayudado a
have
las
helped people
personas, así con el alquiler,
like that
o
with
como ahora
rent,
que
or
está la
like now
pandemia,
that there
ellos
is
han
the
ayudado
pandemic.
cuando
They have
sale
helped
alguien
when someone
contagiado,
comes
los han
out
ayudado
infected.
con su alquiler de renta.
They have helped them with their rent.
Yo me siento feliz porque
I feel
Doña
happy.
Ruth siempre me ha ayudado
Because
en
Doña Ruth
cualquier
has
cosa,
always
y como
helped me.
cuando pasó
When
el huracán
Hurricane Irma happened, they
ellos
helped
me
me at that
ayudaron
time.
en ese tiempo.
I was pregnant with my daughter
Estaba embarazada
Magali
de
when
mi
she
hija
was
Magali,
born.
ella nació a los pocos días,
A few
y
days
me
later,
ayudaron
and they
con
helped me
gastos
with the
que
expenses
tuvimos
we
que pagar
had.
el
We
hotel,
paid for the
porque
hotel
salimos de
because we
aquí
left from
de
here from
me
Immokalee,
ayudaron
and they helped me
con
with
pañales,
diapers.
me
They gave me a
regalaron
crib.
comida, me dieron ropa para la
They gave me
niña,
clothes for
me
my
dieron
daughter, and they
cosas.
also gave me things for my
Me
son
siento
Jose Luis.
agradecida porque
I feel
aquí
grateful
es
because
una
this is a beautiful
comunidad
community to be
bonita
in.
para estar.
And we come together and we do what we do so that others have more. And that's the abundance, that's God's economy.
Un lugar en la
A place at the
mesa
table,
significado tendría
meaning we would have what's needed to live with the family,
lo necesario, la
to have what
comida
is
para
necessary, the food to live together. We all deserve a place at the table. And that's the Luke 14 passage we read earlier. All right, so what stood out to you as you learned about that work? What did you notice? What did you think? What did you feel as you learned about those missionaries and Miguel and that work? What did you notice?
Ashamed.
What's that?
Ashamed.
How so?
Well, we have the abundant things that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't always do the sharing at the table or other things. We do some, but we do a lot more, I'm sure.
Yeah. It often makes me wonder, when we say grace at a meal, if there's tomatoes in that meal, do we give thanks for those workers out in that field who did literal back-breaking labor to do that? Yeah, right.
We have friends that own farms down on the coast, and I can honestly say I'm proud of them watching this, because Johnny and his wife remodeled and redone all of the living quarters and the common areas where they used all the transients they used for their washing and cooking on. They spent a great deal of money making sure that everything was nice for the transients that come in to take care of the blueberries during the planting time and then also during the harvest time. But that is a big business, and everybody is not that nice as far as taking care of the stuff for them, because these people have absolutely nothing, and they travel from place to place, following the seasons. And I was extremely proud of Johnny and Francis when I saw that, because I personally knew the fact we went down and looked over a lot of the stuff they had. They had gone great lengths to make sure that everything was nice, that drainage, everything that they needed when they were there.
I'm so glad that they care about their workers, that they respect and want to support their workers in their work and their life. Yeah, Jan.
Well, I have a lot of mixed feelings about that. I'm glad they're meeting the immediate needs. However, I'm infuriated that the workers are in a system of slavery. And I don't see very little difference in that and, working in a cotton field. They basically have been enslaved. And righteous indignation just is screaming out of me. You know, I would like to go to those people who own the fields and hired these people and make sure that they're giving them a fair wage, which they're not. And, this goes on all over the country. And that's just wrong. And I feel, you know, they're missionaries who help one thing and another, and I feel like I could go on a mission trip directly to those people who own the field and have maybe a come to Jesus moment with them.
Yes.
About their wickedness.
Yes. That's great next level thinking. Yes, it's good to meet people's needs on this day. Those workers need a little help this day, but how can we take it to the next level and put a stop to this problem, or help meet needs on a larger level? And if the problem starts at the top of a company that exploits its workers, then maybe we need to give some attention there. And that kind of mission work, however it might look, might reap so many more benefits if we could help more big farm owners and company owners act like Ray and Edna Ann's friends and just treat their workers with some basic respect and appreciation and basic wage. Yeah, that's big, like kingdom level thinking. Yeah.
And looking at it from a wider view, there's a chicken bombshell out there that is coming on the way. You see, the middle part of the United States has been used to be the breadbasket of the world because we have mass-produced stuff and fed other countries. The last few years, there's been a drought. Each year, that has been worse and worse and worse. Plus, in that area, people have built subdivisions and people have moved in. And the water supply is almost exhausted now. And the reason it will affect us is, like I said, that's the breadbasket of the world, because the food they raise feeds the country, and a lot of overseas depends on the United States for this food.
Yeah.
The water supply. I mean, what can you do when your water's running out?
Yeah, and one of the things that like the pandemic taught us and the invasion of Ukraine taught us is that it doesn't take a lot to mess up everybody's routine in the whole supply chain. So if there was some bad drought, or if all of those workers that picked all that produce suddenly either stopped doing it by choice or were forced out of that work, then we wouldn't be eating tomatoes right now. Or we'd be paying, $10 a tomato or something like that. Like, I can't imagine how much the price would go up if they weren't doing that work. And nor can I imagine what it feels like physically to do that work. I think of maybe the hardest day I've ever worked in my soft, privileged life, let's be honest. And they do that every single day, and it's probably even harder every day than the hardest day that I've worked. And they do that every day.
There was a phrase, God's economy.
Wasn't that a neat phrase? And I think he said it when he was talking about, and help me remember, like connecting with other gardens and food banks and finding where there is extra and abundance, and then sharing it with people who need some and don't have enough. And he called it God's economy. And that phrase stuck out to me too. I thought, oh, that is neat. That's a neat phrase. Have you all ever grown stuff in a garden and you had more than you could use, so you shared it with a friend or a neighbor? Or maybe vice versa? Yeah. Maybe
Zucchini.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep your car locked at zucchini season.
Well, when we lived in Franklin County in Lewisburg, there was a lot of farmland around us, so no matter if our cars and houses were all locked, they would just leave the produce. Our sweet church members who were farmers, we would open the door and there'd just be a bag of cantaloupes or collard greens or, just whatever had been in season. And then like the local farm down the road, and this was a neat story, and you all might have heard about it. It was I should have looked it up, a former NFL professional football player had stopped playing football, moved back to Bunn, North Carolina, to Franklin County, and he wanted to open a farm just so he could grow the produce and give it away. And I think it was either all potatoes or all sweet potatoes or both. And he would have regular during harvest season, and he would just contact every church and food bank and just say, hey, y'all come. It's time. It's time to come and get the stuff. So we would go out there and we would just fill bags, and there'd be food pantries from Raleigh with big trucks, and they would just get bags and bags. So that's kind of what I think of when I hear God's economy. Yeah, God's economy. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny, there's so many things in nature are in overabundance like that. And this is not quite at that scale, but at home we had something like 13 or more pecan trees. And one time a year we had more friends than anybody in town. Because honestly, when they came, you could walk to the orchard and they'd be crushing under your feet. I mean, they were just,
Oh, wow.
It was just that plentiful. And it was every year that way until 1978, I think it was. Several tornadoes came through and just ruined the orchard. But until that time, like I said, a short time a year, we had more friends than you can imagine.
Yeah. And that's what's even neater and sweeter. When someone brings you some extra that they've harvested from their own garden with their own hands that they have grown and gives it to you. Even though I don't really love collard greens, I felt that love, like it was just so sweet, that love. And Paul knows in Louisiana, the word for that is lagniappe. When you have a little extra and you give that little extra away, is there a word around here for that? Like when you have a little like kind of a little extra, you kind of give it away? Okay. Yeah, it's like surplus. Yeah. There you go. There's your Louisiana vocab word for the night, lagniappe. So when you share a little lagniappe, it means more than just a watermelon or two. It means more than potatoes. And that's why Miguel said, when you give someone some food that they need and appreciate, you're not just feeding their body, you're feeding their soul. And I think he was right on. And that's like the real mission work, the real ministry that's going on. Yes, those workers need food that day and the next day, yes. And the Burnettes and Miguel get them the food they need, yes. But what's the real blessing? Like the eternal, the deeper blessing. It's that they have been welcomed a place at the table, that you're our neighbor. Whatever you might look like, whatever language you might have spoken, whatever your papers say, you're a child of God. That makes us brothers and sisters in Christ. And if I've got a little extra and my brother needs some, then God, I should give some of that lagniappe to my brother who's in need. And that's God's economy. And I wonder if the only way to kind of make that happen more in our world is to help us see all those around us as, there goes a child of God walking down Main Street. Well, there goes a child of God driving down Merriman. Oh, I'm a child of God. That's my brother. That's my sister. My brothers and sisters are walking around. Look at all my brothers and sisters who are standing in line outside the rescue mission on Patton Avenue. And maybe that's how we can transition our eyes and our priorities more into God's economy, because it's the family of God. I did look up something that I want us to put on our radar. As we have talked about missionaries every week, I always ask the question, yes, we are so honored to support their work, so now how can their work inspire us in our mission field here? This is our mission field in Weaverville and in all of Buncombe County, North Carolina, ends there. So this is our mission field. So as we think about how the Burnettes and Miguel cultivate abundance, Missionaries, how they can inspire us to do the mission work of our community, I went online. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has an online database you can look at as a map that they call the Food Access Research Atlas, that identifies areas that are food deserts or places with difficult or only expensive access to healthy foods. So I looked up our area, and I don't know if you can see, let's see. So there's Weaverville, right there, there's Weaverville. This is 26, going down, there's Asheville and 240, and there's Woodfin. And so this area is highlighted. I'll tell you what the highlights mean. This area is highlighted, there's the Madison County line. They do it by census tracts. So this census tract area, let's see, this is like Monticello Road going down here. Here's the river. There's the river going up. And I think this is like Newstock Road, maybe, going up here. And then here's this area in North Asheville. So here's what the color areas mean. The areas in green are low-income census tracts where a significant number of residents don't have vehicles, and residents who are more than 1 mile away from a supermarket in an urban setting or 10 miles away from a supermarket in a rural setting. So it's a little vague, but those are the areas that fit those descriptions that are closest to us. So I just wanted to know that, because I was curious where those areas might be around us, and there they are. So any thoughts? I just found this image today. I'm still kind of thinking about it. Any thoughts as we kind of process that those are areas where there is a significant amount of residents who don't have vehicles or live more than 1 mile away from a supermarket in an urban setting or 10 miles away in a rural setting, and it's an area where there's a larger number of multi-families in a single residence, like we saw, like the migrant workers in the trailers. So I don't know, I just wanted to know that. I just wanted to know kind of what are the locations in our area that might be struggling the most. And that those are there. Those were based on like the census that was done in 2019 and kind of like the 2020 census.
Is that green at the bottom area? Is that inner city Asheville?
No, because you can't see it from your seats, but this little gray, that's 240. So this is Interstate 240 right here. And so this would be kind of like west and north Asheville. Like here's the river right here. Here's 26.
Well,
So downtown would be like right here. So I was kind of surprised that, and maybe I didn't expand. I should have expanded it to see but I think it does kind of reach down even a little farther. I was trying to get this part in as
Well,
well.
that's in between 26 and the river, that's like River
River
Arts
Arts.
District, well, on the north side of River Arts District, isn't it? Cause that's not West Asheville.
No, yeah, you're right, yeah.
It includes Hillcrest.
Where Emma School is.
Yeah.
One of the poorest
Yeah, I bet,
schools in the area.
I bet Emma might be like around here somewhere,
Emma.
maybe.
Yeah, Emma Elementary School.
Well, something to think about, something to think about as we consider our mission field here. Well, let's go ahead and we'll conclude tonight, and then next week we'll meet some more great missionaries, and we'll be reading these verses again as well. And my challenge for you this week, as you eat a meal and give thanks to God for the meal, yes, but also think about how that meal came to get in your house or on your table, and who might have, frankly, worked a lot harder than you to make that happen, because those guys worked a lot harder for that food to get on my table than I did. And that's just the truth. So be thankful for that, and recognize that, and think about who we welcome or would welcome at our table if they were to walk around, and if we were to see them. So go in peace to love and serve the Lord, and see you next week.